Hey, what's up y'all? Today's video is going to be about my favorite power in the game, Sky Jump. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos about Icarus Uprising in the future, make sure to like and subscribe and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And with that out of the way, let's get started. When gamers finally got their hands on Icarus Uprising back in 2012, they had a fair bit of criticisms for the game, with the most popular one being about the game's control scheme like most people know by now. But I believe one of the more overlooked criticisms I saw back in the day was the lack of a jump button. The only way to have access to a jump in the game is by equipping one of three powers that allow your fighter to jump, which are Sky Jump, Rocket Jump, and Jump Glide. In Icarus Uprising, some power descriptions don't fully describe what a power does, and the jumping powers all fall victim to this. So if you were to take Sky Jump's description at face value, Sky Jump just makes your character jump and that's it. Sky Jump has 4 power levels you can choose from, and they all jump the exact same height, and if you're playing on multiplayer, they also share the exact same amount of power uses. So at this point, you're probably wondering what's the point of having 4 different power levels of Sky Jump is. And to answer your question, each level of Sky Jump grants you different levels of damage reduction. The damage reduction comes into play as soon as your feet leaves the ground up until you land in my experience. Oh yeah, and if you were also wondering about the other 2 jumping powers, Jump Glide also gets damage reduction, but Rocket Jump doesn't, and instead has the unique ability to cancel nearby shots, which the other 2 jumping abilities don't have. But back to Sky Jump, I used to make jokes about Sky Jump being OP in the early days of Uprising, but that was back before I noticed that it had damage reduction, since I would only use Sky Jump for mobility. Little did I know that Sky Jump would actually be a good contender for being considered overpowered. Now, because I don't have a hard number for exactly how much damage reduction Sky Jump gives you for each level, I'm going to do the next best thing and just show you a damage comparison. So just to use this as a baseline, here's how much damage this Magnus Club does to a fighter with default stats that doesn't Sky Jump. This Magnus Club deals 220.8, which I'm assuming rounds up to 221, which should be how much health a fighter should have at default stats. So at Sky Jump level 1, you have a little bit of damage reduction, which is pretty good considering this is the most cost-effective level of the power to fit onto your power board. Now at level 2, we get a decent amount of damage reduction and it only costs 1 more block of space on your power board. Now that we're on level 3, we start taking significantly less damage, even though technically we take up the same amount of space of 4 blocks on the power board, but just in a more awkward shape. And finally, at level 4, we're basically just being tickled at this point. But now, there's a major difference in power board space required, and trust me, this shape on the power board will really test all your Tetris skills when you try fitting other powers on here. Since this video is focused for multiplayer, you'll always have 10 uses of Sky Jump at your disposal, meaning that you can use this power for a variety of things. But just to go on about damage reduction for a bit longer, at level 4, there's nothing that can one-shot you when you're at full health, while your damage reduction from Sky Jumping is active, even at default health. This comes in handy if you're using Sky Jump to aggressively approach someone with a melee weapon, for example, since your main goal with melee is to close in the distance without taking excessive damage. More importantly, you can live every single item in the game using level 4 Sky Jump. For example, against the Rocket Bomb, even if you were to use Celestial Fireworks, the hitbox of the Rocket Bomb remains active long enough for it to damage you once your invincibility frames run out. In this scenario, I usually time my Sky Jump use as soon as the Rocket Bomb is about to damage me, so I take very minimal damage when doing this. One thing you can do is combine this with Celestial Fireworks just so you don't have to care about timing this as much. You can even live Daybreak and pretty much shrug it off like it weren't a threat in the first place. Now, before I go on for like an hour about what things you can live with Sky Jump, this is a power you can always rely on if you ever need it for mobility, or for survival, which goes hand in hand when you're playing as the Angel in Light vs Dark. This should go without saying, but the faster you are at reaching for your powers during fights or just general gameplay, the more value you'll get out of Sky Jump. Effective use of Sky Jump will make the game feel a lot faster once you're accustomed to using it whenever the situation calls for it. So with that being said, here's my control scheme if you were curious. I do want to point out that I alternate between using the touchscreen and D-pad for power activation, but of course, the most important thing is having a control scheme that is comfortable for you, since you're going to be reaching for powers frequently on multiplayer. Now with that out of the way, I can finally go into the main benefit of using Skyjump. Skyjump is fantastic for maneuvering around certain multiplayer maps faster than you could normally. Using Skyjump for movement can definitely be tricky when you're starting out. I like to think of Skyjump as having two modes, dash jump for extra horizontal movement, and regular jump which gives you more vertical movement, which can come in handy in some cases. For some obstacles, you'll need your maximum jump height from regular jumping, like for example if you wanted to jump to the second floor on Ancient Fortress, and my personal favorite, cutting to the back corner of Forgotten City. As for dash jumping, this is where you'll need to speed up your power usage to get the most out of your horizontal movement, because the input window to get the maximum speed for your jump depends on if you can use Skyjump during your initial dash animation. The exception to this is if your weapon is already super fast, so like if you have running speed +4 or speed +4 modifier on a fast claw, as the momentum from you running will transfer to your jump. The window to perform a dash jump isn't too strict, so it shouldn't take you too long to get used to this. If used correctly, the dash jump will give your fighter a burst of speed, which can be extremely handy if you were to use this offensively. The Magnus Club in particular benefits greatly from this, due to its extremely limited range, which hinders it from being effective when you need to catch up to your opponent. With the combination of dash jump, the burst of speed can be the difference between landing a hit with standing charge shot or having to chase your opponent for a bit longer. I did want to briefly go over some maps that have spots that are great uses for Skyjump. While some of these spots may seem a bit underwhelming compared to others, they do save a decent amount of time, which may be crucial to winning a game at the last second. The top floor of Desert Tomb is a popular hiding spot for angels, especially the corners where you have to use the jump pad to access. Normally you'd have to pick the correct side to catch your enemy, as there's a tiny step that will prevent you from moving inside, and will give angels a prime opportunity to escape if they see you going around the long way to chase them. One other thing you can do as well is jump over the hole in the middle of the map that's the entrance to the bottom floor, which can be useful if you see an item you want to get to without wasting time running around. On Spiral Tower, you gain access to two alternative methods of entering the tower, with one being a safer option to entering the Spiral Tower with the protection of cover versus going up the regular way. The other method involves jumping twice to the second floor of the tower that puts you directly at the jump pad. This method can be very handy if you're trying to cut someone off before they reach the jump pad. You are a bit more exposed to enemy fire while doing this, but it can be worth the payoff if you do it quickly enough. On Twilight Stratosphere, you can actually skip a decent amount of travel time needed to reach the highest platform, which can be extremely useful when needed to chase down an opponent. You can also skip the need for the jump pads on the lower platforms as well, which can come in handy when you're constantly dodging fire during a firefight, which can ruin your ability to use jump pads in the first place. Rail Temple. Believe it or not, Skyjump actually cuts the time needed for your character to start the rail travel animation. This is extremely effective at throwing off opponents that are chasing you down, especially in the rail station that has a small pocket to hide in. Another useful thing is being able to jump off the center island without needing to use that annoying green jump pad, which can be tricky to use at times. One last thing, the rail station that has the annoying hill can be accessed way quicker with jump powers, so you don't have to go all the way around, which can be time consuming for slower weapons. Ancient Fortress. On Ancient Fortress, you actually get some cool parkour options with Skyjump. You can enter the second floor of the fortress with a regular jump through the front, which can easily catch people off guard. You even get a cool stealthy route to the third floor without having to take the stairs or the jump pad, which will definitely catch people camping up top by surprise. Lastly, there's a jump you can make from the tiny hill into the second floor of the fortress, but it does take a speedy weapon to get it right, so just keep that in mind. Lava Basin. Lava Basin, the home to many failed skyjumps. Skyjump on this deadly map allows for more flexibility and movement on the inside of the basin, so instead of being locked down and just moving along the jump pads, you can mix up your exits. It should go without saying that some of these jumps are incredibly risky, as you can die falling into the lava, although I'm pretty sure you can actually warp out of failed skyjumps if you mess up on some of the higher elevated jumps, but you have to be quick about it. It definitely took me a ton of mistakes to get this map down with Skyjump, so at least try to practice this with bots first before you try to implement this into an actual match. Forgotten City. If you've seen me stream this game at all, you would immediately know that Forgotten City gets the most value out of Skyjump out of all the maps. It's crazy how this map feels like it was made with jumping in mind. Easily the most important Skyjump area on this map is the inside area that allows you to bypass a long travel time to the back corner of the map, which will immediately annoy any melee users that aren't prepared for it. You can also jump into the inside area of the map from the elevated area outside, which becomes incredibly useful when you're afraid it'll be knocked off the map. And lastly, the back corner of Forgotten City is basically one big parkour playground, since there isn't one spot in there that isn't able to be speedrun with Skyjump. In my totally not biased opinion, I believe melee builds should have this on, unless you want to have your ankles broken by someone using Skyjump to get past map terrain that may take you a while to reach around. The Forgotten City shortcut is a pretty good example of this. Oh yeah, and I also wanted to mention that there's also a really cool combo you can land that is incredibly strong with melee weapons that can only be used with Skyjump or Rocket Jump if you wanted to go that way. That combo is using a dash jump to close in the distance, and just before you land, you want to shoot your standing charge shot, and immediately as you land, you want to use a manual input melee dash attack. As far as I've experienced, this combo is heavily dependent on the knockback your standing charge shot deals, as well as how fast you can input your manual melee dash attack. For example, the Optical Blade and Raptor Claws have a standing charge shot that knocks opponents into the air slightly, that doesn't allow for dodging, because you're technically not touching the ground, and on top of that also deals a bit of hit stun with mild knockback. But regardless, if you fail to connect the full combo, the burst of speed will have your opponent immediately looking for a way out. The great thing about Skyjump is the fact that not only is it a fantastic tool for melee builds, it can also drastically improve your matchup against melee weapons while you're playing a ranged weapon as well. The reason for this is because in order for someone to land a melee combo on you, they have to be on the same level as you. So if you're in the air while your opponent attempts to hit you with the melee combo, they will be stuck in an animation I like to call melee lunge until the game gives up and stops the animation. From what I've experienced, connection issues can actually cause this animation to last as long as it takes for you to land, so you still have to be aware of your surroundings for an escape to higher ground. The only true way to ensure they don't land the combo is to jump to a higher ground whenever possible. While it is possible for someone to time their melee dash attack to try and catch you while you're landing, the margin of error for this is actually quite small from what I've experienced. So overall, melee actually suffers greatly from people using Skyjump, or just jumping powers in general. Before I end this section of the video, I do want to bring up two weapon classes that work great in combination with the anti-melee properties of jumping in general. Those two classes are the Club class and the Cannon class. The reason for this in particular is that while you are in midair via a jumping power, you can actually aim your targeting reticle a bit lower than you can naturally. So why does this matter? It matters because, like I said earlier, if someone tries to initiate a melee combo on you while you're in midair, they'll be stuck in the melee lunge animation, and they're basically left wide open for attack. The window that they're left vulnerable is quite long given how fast this game plays, so you have a big window of opportunity to land a hit. The Club class in particular is home to weapons with incredibly powerful standing charge shots, with some being capable of killing you in one shot, like for example the Skyscraper Club. The Cannon class, while not having as much power behind standing charge shot, especially in comparison to the aforementioned Club class, still gains some utility from Skyjump because you can actually cause your standing charge shot to detonate by aiming straight down to the ground during the use of a jumping power that you wouldn't be able to do by just aiming at the ground naturally. So while your opponent is stuck in their melee lunge animation, you can basically hit them for free with your standing charge shot. Other classes can potentially get a use out of this, but it really depends on shot size, which both clubs and cannons don't have to worry about. If you haven't already seen my video on item toss canceling, you are unable to throw items while you are mid-air, which can be pretty handy if you still want to be able to attack while holding a valuable resource like a smart bomb, for example, which can be very effective when you have the ability to jump on command when needed. I go a bit more in depth on that video, so I would definitely recommend watching that if you are interested in some item shenanigans. Now, if you're as dumb or crazy as me, Skyjump can actually work as a great alternative to dodging. It can actually throw off a weapon's shot homing due to the sudden change in direction, although this can vary wildly depending on weapon. So before I start rambling off topic, let me explain why you'd even want to use Skyjump as an alternative to regular dodging. So with regular dodging, you're stuck in a dodging animation before you're able to launch an attack, which usually gives your opponent enough time to recover from their end lag of their attack depending on how far they are and how fast your shot speed is. The same also applies to using certain powers for invincibility frames upon activation, which will cause your fighter to have to sit through an activation animation until you're able to attack. Now with Sky Jump, if you manage to dodge your opponent's shot with this, they'll be stuck in the end lag of their attack, and meanwhile you're closing in the distance, while still being able to launch your standing charge shot, which can give you such a massive advantage that may result in you landing the lethal blow you've been looking for. Even in the case where you fail to dodge, your Sky Jump still grants damage reduction, which can prevent you from receiving too much damage if you're using higher levels of Sky Jump. This is incredibly effective at punishing get-up attacks as well. This could just be my muscle memory speaking, but it's incredibly easy to see a get-up attack incoming, since you have the damage warning basically screaming that a shot is about to be launched. You can take advantage of this warning to get ready to perform a dash jump to close in the distance and attack. This is incredibly easy to abuse on stabs because the most commonly used stabs are the ones that require absolute precision. So with Sky Jump on the table, your opponent is kind of forced to pick to aim high or low, and with those particular stabs, charge time is incredibly long, which can leave them vulnerable for considerably long periods of time while you're free to do what you want. So at this point you're probably wondering if there's any weakness to Sky Jump, and the answer is kind of. You're only really vulnerable upon landing, which you can cover with your standing charge shot to keep your opponent busy with dodging. While this isn't foolproof, it is very effective in baiting a reaction to dodge, which can lead to your safety. The other quote-unquote weakness to Sky Jump is if you're taking a risky jump over a stage hazard like Lava Basin for example, because for some of those jumps you're required to dash jump, which can be ruined if you accidentally dodge something you weren't planning to, which will result in you doing a regular jump instead, which will plunge you into the lava down below. In my totally not biased opinion, Sky Jump doesn't really have any significant weakness, especially if used unpredictably, which would throw off even the most seasoned players of Kid Icarus Uprising multiplayer. Alright, so hopefully y'all enjoyed me babbling about Sky Jump for a while. I absolutely love using this power, which should be pretty obvious if you seen me livestream the multiplayer. At face value it seems like just a simple jump, but just the fact that no one has the option to use it unless they have it equipped is such a crazy advantage. On the off chance you're the only person that has it, and are able to effectively take advantage of its seemingly never-ending applications. Just before I end this video, I do want to end it off with a cool cinematic thing similar to my multiplayer guide video. So with that being said, I want to thank y'all for joining me on my TED Talk on why Sky Jump is OP, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Light as a feather when I'm floating through, reading through the daily news, measuring the hurt within the golden rule. Centimeters of ether, I'm heating the speaker. Motivational teacher with words that burn people. Singing the headlines, lined with discord. It's either genocide or the planet in uproar. Never good. The rules in paradise are never nice. The best laid plans of mice and men are never right. I'm just a vagabond with flowers for Algernon, an average Joe who knows what the fuck is going on. It's the hope of my thoughts that I travel upon. Fly like an arrow of God until I'm gone. So drifting away like a feather in air, letting my words take me away from the hurt and despair. So I'm keeping it vertical, forever elevator, riding the escalator to the something that is greater. So I'm drifting away like a feather in air, letting my soul take me away from the hurt and despair. So I'm keeping it vertical, forever elevator, riding the escalator to the something that is greater.
Taking chances, word tap dancing with wolves in an ice arena out there deep in the woods of Arizona. The sun be out, life's ironic, ain't it? Trying to be Dali when I write surreal life, I painted vivid. Habitat crazy, insane. Watching propaganda, 6 o'clock, news and insane. Cultures clash, poor black folk and white trash. They rebel in the cyberspace and might crash. Dash to millennium, a million miles are running. At the speed of now, bound no return gunning. Rambo style, gun hold, child gunning. Ambo plow, 2 times loud, stunning. Stunning, when they hit ya, lift you off the earth like, hey yo, take you right back to birth. And niggas wonder why, they might wonder why this shit might happen, but it does. They go
drifting away like a feather in air, letting my words take me away from the hurt and despair. So I'm keeping it vertical, forever elevator, riding the escalator to the something that is greater. So I'm drifting away like a I will survive